Okay, I'm Ming, a holy priest on Mal'Ganis. I got C last year and a Mirror Soul in the first tier I really ever tried to raid on. You can look me up on Warcraft logs if you want. If you care about that, but I don't think my parse necessarily matters, even though I do well. Um, right, I'm on deciding the uncouth now, going forward, and I really want to talk about the state of holy priests and where we're looking at the in the beta. Right, as you can tell, um, the War Within launches on August 26th, right? Like we don't have much time left. There's only going to be so much more time before they stop making major changes and they focus completely on tuning, right? There's there's like 7 weeks left. Who knows when they're gonna actually stop that? But I imagine we only have like 2-3 weeks left max before they pull the plug and they're like, okay, it's Tune Machine now, right? So I'm very concerned with where Holy is, right? Especially after I've read some of the shaman notes, right? Holy feels like they're just constantly forgotten by Blizzard. Priests in general, outside of Shadow, who's gotten reworked like 3 times in Dragonflight or something fucking ridiculous because they were broken, right? But right? Like we lost Shining Force in Dragonflight beta. Look what's back for Shamans, Shining Force. Oh wow, whoop de doo. That's why I feel like it's important to make these a video about this, to show my points and visualize it for people to show how fucking bad our talent trees actually is. Right? Here's a bit of a flashbang. Sorry, but look at the. This is the Kalamazoo made this. Kalamazoo the Warlock. He made this picture that he shared on Twitter where he showed 2-point nodes and total talent points and the average. And he did this a few months ago, and Max references it all the time. He just referenced it in his Shaman video, and when he talked about it on stream, right? So I wanted to update it to show healers, tanks. It was missing AUG as well, and to show with where it currently stands. And as you can tell, both Holy and Disc are two of the highest with Enhanced Shaman, right? Those 3 specs have a lot of 2-point nodes. And when you have a lot of 2-point nodes, what happens is that your build's actually super restrictive. And there's other problems with the spec tree and the class tree for Holy, but outside of that, like it's just restrictive in general because we have so many 2-point nodes that stop us from pathing certain ways. Right? When you are 0 points like Windwalker, 0 points like Ali, or 0 points like some other classes, or minimal points, right? You have more options, you have more choices in choosing how you want to make the gameplay. And now, obviously, you're gonna min max, and there's gonna be like what is mathematically superior or whatever, right? Like there's always gonna be an element of that, but it's even more stringent on what is mathematically superior when you're already restricted, right? And I'll show you by walking through and making a raid build together. I'll do the M+1 after, but we'll walk through both the class and the spec tree to show how bad and how little choices you actually have. Because I think people forget that I'm not talking about our power level, right? I don't care how powerful we are, where we are on the HPS meters and all that. Like it doesn't matter to me, right? I just want the spec to feel good and to be fun, right? And I'll show you why our choices make that not fun, right? We don't have fun choices, specifically, right? So here's the calculator, obviously, and we'll walk through. I'll show you how little choice we actually have, right? So, I mean, there's plenty of ways we can start this, but I'll just tell you. I'll just do a point and tell you why we have to take it. Shadow Fiend is mandatory. It's necessary. It's free damage. It's healing later, and I'll get to that later. But also, it gives you mana back, which is very important. Right? In both Raid and M+, it's just important. We have to take Flash Heal. It improves our Flash Heal, right? I mean, you do that a little less. You cast that a little less in Raid now, but it's just good. But you have to take it because you need Protective Light. 10% DR for 10 seconds. You can keep this up all the time if you really want, if you're really good at it. But Priest doesn't have any defensives, so, or doesn't have many defensives, so having a rolling 10% DR at least a lot of the time, or whenever you really want it, is going to help us a lot, right? That's mandatory in high end rating, mandatory in M plus, right? Required. You cannot not have that, right? For that same reason, spell wording mandatory. A lot of damage in WoW is magic. You 3% reduce damage taken, mandatory, right? Where Holy Priest focus mending is mandatory, right? Where you want to press palm on prayer mending on cooldown, I'll try and refrain from using the vernacular, right? Like the shortened versions, because it's going to be harder for people who aren't as in depth in Holy or used to that, right? So prayer mending, extra healing, you hit that on CD anyways, every 10, 11 seconds with 0 haste, more often, maybe 9 seconds with a lot of haste, right? So it's just good, right? You have to take Feather. We have no mobility as a priest, so Feather is mandatory. You have to go through here. We don't even like this. Void Tendrils is dog shit. It's another thing that's around you, which sucks. And it gets instantly broken, which sucks. It was bugged for about a couple weeks in Season 1 when they implemented it, where it would just work all the time and it felt fucking amazing, but now that it doesn't, it sucks. Right? Because it gets broken instantly by a fucking tick. Like, somebody sneezes and it's broken. Right? So you can take it if you want, but it's an extra keybind, so I usually just take the Sheer Terror, because we need to go through there for pathing anyways. Holy Nova and Rhapsody are both required, right? Holy Nova gives you, like, Holy Nova is fine. It gives you something to do when you're moving, which is nice, but Rhapsody actually does a surprising amount of healing once it's stacked up. So if you hit it every 20 seconds, right, or a little bit longer, whatever, when you need it, it actually does a surprising amount of healing and damage, which is really good, right? But you just don't want to spam it. If you spam it, you're doing something wrong, right? Leech is required in raid. You have to take both points. Leech is required in raid. It's even good in M plus too, but this is required. These are optional. This is mandatory. PI and Twins is mandatory for very obvious reasons, right? You're part of the reason you're brought is because you PI somebody else, and why would you only PI someone else when you can get benefit as well, right? You're already doing it on their timer, so you might as well fucking get a little bit of a dopamine hit by having it. It just feels good to PI yourself, right? 20% haste is nice, right? Twist of Fate, mandatory. Again, throughput, right? When somebody's low, it's just 10% extra healing sometimes, and then you also, once the raid boss is low, right, 35%, because it's damage or healing, you're just rolling a 10% damage and healing increase the entire execute phase. Really good, because you're gonna have Shadow Word Pain uptime and Holy Fire and throw a Smite here or there. Like, through all of that, even if you don't have perfect, like, you should have 100% uptime of this in the very end of the fight, unless the boss is not hittable for whatever reason, or you're dead, obviously, right? Usually you have to take Massive Spell, but maybe you don't, right? So we have to take a couple extra points. We have to spend 5 points, right? It depends. If you have to take Massive Spell, I usually like doing this. Sometimes you don't have to take it, and you can cheat away with this, but that's required. This doesn't matter, honestly. Reduces Fizz damage taken by 5% for 15 seconds. This usually doesn't matter after you crit. Like, it's whatever. But we're gonna go under the assumption you need Massive Spell, because a lot of fights need that, and we've had plenty of fights, like, both Tindril and Fire Act required you to dispel a lot, so reducing the mana cost is just really nice. So I'm just gonna go under that assumption. I don't particularly know how the last raid boss works and all the mythic mechanics for the other ones, but I do know one of them on the council fight, Silken Court, right? That one, there is dispels as well, and if you're dispelling, you might as well get benefit from it. IMO and Massive Spell, right? I think everybody knows, like, that utility is required. Usually it's good for pathing, but it's generally required just because in fights where you have dispels, having a mass dispel remove all of them is just nice. Unwavering will is required. There's no question about it, right? It just reduces the cast of smite, flash heal, prayer of healing. Like all of those are reduced by 10% when you're high, which is going to be a lot of the time in Dragonflight. Even if this node said you do nothing, this node does nothing, you would still have to take it for pathing. So, right, that's where we're at. And now you'll notice we have 1 point left, and this is for raid. We could have saved a few points with this if we really wanted to, and we don't have Leap of Faith yet, right? You'll notice we don't have Leap of Faith. How interesting, right? So you have 1 point left in a fight where you have to dispel, right? Which is the assumption we're going on for this, and you have 1 point left. What's your best point? Dispel, that's rare. Psychic Scream, like Shadow Word Death, like you don't really want to hit Death as holy. There's better shit to hit, right? Like I guess it's kind of funny for execute, but again, Shadow Word Death doesn't really do well unless you put 2 points into it. Then it's like really good. So we'll just take Leap of Faith because that's probably what we're gonna want anyways. Let's be real. DR mandatory, no matter what. This is mandatory. Like it's non-negotiable. Like that's mandatory. You cannot do any serious content without fade DR. Some people will macro fade, and if you're really bad at pressing it, macroing it's fine. But if you are good at pressing it and you don't care about the uptime, and having the 10% DR off the GCD whenever you want, basically, is really, really powerful. And you'll notice yourself living a lot more when you're actually using it before damage. It was very, very important on Tindril, for example, last season, where you would have the root phases and you needed it, and then the seeds would go off and the dispels and all this shit was happening at the same time. And if you didn't hit fade, sometimes you would die because people would stack on you, etc. Right? Halo or Divine Star is mandatory. I have Archon set. I think Halo is just going to be better anyways in general. Like, I don't... Divine Star is, like, decent, but having to throw it every 15 seconds sucks. Like, let's be real. You want everybody to be stacked, which doesn't always happen, and you have to throw it every 15 seconds. And generally, there's better things that I like casting more. So I would choose Halo no matter what, almost all the time. Binding Heals is just too good, right? This lets you... like, Angel's Mercy you can take if there's a specific fight where you need to have a... It goes from 130 to 110, or 1 minute 30 to 1 minute 10 seconds, so 70 seconds. So if there's a fight where you need a 70-second Desperate Prayer to live something, then you'll take this, obviously, right? But in most cases, Binding Heals is just going to be good because with Protective Light, when you use Flash Heal on somebody else, you're Flash Healing yourself and you're getting Protective Light. So this just means that you're never having to... You're not going to have to cast on yourself to get that DR, right? Which is why Binding Heals is just generally better. Light's Inspiration is mandatory. 15% extra HP. That's, like, no matter what. You need that. It's not you want that. You need that in high progression rating. Like, having that hit for when you Desperate Prayer is super mandatory. I would have died plenty of times on Tindril and Fyrak if I did not have extra HP. Right? And it's just beneficial, even if you're in a lower guild, it's just beneficial because when you're that healthy, you don't have to worry about yourself. As long as you're dodging avoidable stuff, right? You don't have to worry about yourself, right? You can fully focus on other people and let your leech carry yourself up. And you're not in threat of dying. Benevolence or Power of Life, it depends, obviously, on if we're low. If people are low, then you have to take... the point you have to take no matter what, right? But if people are spiking low and you need to spot heal them a lot, then Power of Life gets a lot of value. Otherwise, Benevolence can never go wrong with it, right? Those are mandatory. Surge of Light, in my opinion, is mandatory. At least 1 point. With this... Actually, I don't know how this works if you don't have it. But you would still want it because you would, with Archon, because you get the bonus from Energy Cycle. So I imagine you will want both points. But maybe you just put 1, right? You could potentially put 1 in this and not feel as bad, because just having some instant flash heals is nice. For the same reasons, because you have binding heals, because you want the protective light, right? But now we have no points left, right? We would want to do this for pure defensive value and pure HPS, because Essence of Hour actually does a surprising amount of HPS, and this gives us more fade uptime. But maybe we don't. Maybe if we need utility, right? Like if we need a utility node, for example, we need our things to not scream, or we need a quicker scream, right? We need a 30-second scream instead of a 45. Well, that's minus defensive. Or we could do this if we're really scared of dying, right? Minus defensives. Maybe range is necessary in a fight, who knows? But again, minus HPS for this point, right? Almost all our points here, we had one choice, which is getting a Leap of Faith with the Dispel. Or we don't take Leap of Faith. And I guess if you're not taking Leap of Faith, you can go Body and Soul. I did that on Fire Axe sometimes because I didn't need Leap of Faith, and you can't Leap of Faith the big trees for whatever fucking reason. And I was the one having the heal. I was the one having spot heal the people with the sea carriers. Right? So you can do that. That's one option with that instead of Leap of Faith if it's like really bad and you find feathers are lackluster. But we don't have options. Like, we can't... Any choice we have if we need utility... Like, if we need a disease dispel, fuck us, 2 points. If we need the purge, like on Razageth, well, there's a point, and that's -1 for HPS or defensive value, right? Or if we need quicker Leap of Faith, not like, you know, if we need snare removal, we have to get 2 points, right? This is like Senarth, right? Like, it's you don't have choice. That's the main problem. You actually don't have choice here. You're forced into... All your choice is minus defensive value or minus, right? Minus throughput. Because we could say, okay, well, we really need to live, so let's get rid of Surge. And we can go over here and do stuff like this. Like, you could do something like this, but now you don't have Surge of Light, which feels bad, because Surge of Light is just a good quality of life thing to have, where sometimes you get these instant flash heals that are free, right? So, like, you can do stuff like this, but all you're sacrificing on your class tree, all you're sacrificing on your class tree is throughput or defensive. It's almost never utility for utility. The one time you could do that was with his Leap of Faith point, where I guess you could put it into Dispel or Body and Soul if you really needed it, right? You don't really have that option. So I'll fix this so it doesn't look as cursed. Because that's probably something where I would end up generally. Like, I think this is a good general tree to have. Now let's go to rating for our spec tree, right? Serenity is, I think, very obvious, mandatory, right? No matter what. I mean, it's the first point, so good single target heal. You'll need it for the rest of your kit. Whatever. Same thing with Sanctify. You need that no matter what. No matter what you're doing. Prayer of Healing, necessary. We're AoE healing, right? AoE healing is one way to reduce Sanctify. We'd rather hit Prayer of Healing than Flash Heal in current state. In current state, current tuning, Prayer of Healing is good, and it's blocking Circle. And Circle is mandatory. 15-second cooldown, very efficient heal, right? This heals when the difference between Circle and Prayer is Prayer will heal around the target, the 4 nearest targets. What Circle will do is it'll choose 4 injured targets, right? So it will actually heal, and it's more likely to not overheal. Right? Because it's not going to choose, okay, the 4 closest. It's going to be the 4 injured targets around that person in that 30-yard vicinity, right? So those are all mandatory. We're going to need to go to Palm. So we have to get down there some way. You could, I guess, get rid of Guardian Spirit. If you wanted to do damage, this is kind of base, but you need to get down in the middle anyways. So that's kind of bad. So usually what you have to do is you get Guardian Spirit. Guardian Spirit sucks as a 3-minute cooldown, so you make it a 1-minute cooldown with Guardian Angel. That's basically it. Right now you have a Guardian Spirit on a minute. It's actually pretty good, and you can save a lot of people with this. It's a little hard to use, but if you know when to use it and you start planning it out, it's nice. It's also just nice if you hold it as a panic button. You notice, okay, somebody fucked up. I'll put it on them, and it's really hard for that person to die at that point. And then Guardians of the Light is kind of interesting, but it's not really a choice node because there's very rarely mechanics where you get targeted with somebody else and you want to sacrifice yourself. That doesn't really happen a lot. Right? It doesn't really happen where two people have to eat something and you need the cheat for both of you. So that's why you just usually go this. Renewed Faith is mandatory. It's not there's no asking for this. Is mandatory. 6% extra healing when people have renew up. You're gonna have decent renew up time. It combos really well with salve because you put renews on everybody. That's mandatory. Cosmic Ripple, just free passive healing. It's probably your best point. It costs no mana. You're gonna be hitting holy words a lot, so you're gonna be hitting these holy words and having them come up a lot. So might as well get free value, right? Now, one of the things you'll notice is that a lot of these are either active abilities, or you're going to notice a consistent thing. They're going to be very, passive benefits that you don't, they're not really tangible. You don't really feel them, right? This one, we're probably going to play Prayer Circle next time. We're not going to have that much renew up time, so I'm not sure how Healing Course where Healing Course stacks are going to land. I'm sure people will rate test this a lot. And I'll test it a lot, but we're probably gonna be prayer circling, especially because our tier set's gonna make us. I should have had the tier set pulled up, but the tier set lets you have a chance to sometimes cast extra prayer of healings at a reduced effectiveness. So, you're more incentivized to cast prayer of healing. So you'll want to do your circle into prayer of healings to proc that. Orison is mandatory. Orison, I don't know how the fuck you say it. It's one of the weirdest name things. I don't even know what the word means. It's mandatory. Circle heals an extra ally, so instead of healing 5 people, right, you're the target plus 4. It's the target plus 5. Right, it heals a good chunk, and it reduces the cooldown to 12 seconds. And this is reduced further with haste, so really nice, right? It's just mandatory to go that. Divine Hymn mandatory, obviously. Raid cooldown's a raid cooldown. Divine Hymn's extremely strong. If the heal amp that you were giving was shown on the meters, it would be like the Paladin situation where Devo is shown. It's really, really good. And that there's a lot of things where you can it heals a decent amount by itself, but it also supplements the healing of the rest of your healers a lot. So it's really nice in raid. Symbols, again, mandatory. If anything, for the mana for yourself, if you're in a worse guild, you could just use it for yourself, and that's fine, right? Honestly, and hope that people are hitting the defenses properly. But it can be very, very necessary when you have a holy priest to be using symbols properly to help people get their defensive abilities back in time. An example of this was Fyrak P3 to try and live APOC roars and make that that healing check better. And to be able to live one natty, because people were doing the 2 seed strat or the 3 seed strat where you throw them out so that you would have less seeds to potentially get hit. Benediction is mandatory. You hit prayer mending on cooldown. Your prayer mending is gonna give renews sometimes, and that plays really well into renewed faith for the extra renew healing. Right, renew does some healing by itself. It's not the best spell, but having it passively is good. Hitting it is bad, right? You don't never want to cast renew, but getting it for free is fine. Prayer of the Virtuous is mandatory. Prismatic Echoes is mandatory. We play Mastery. Again, this is assuming we're playing the same AoE stuff. We're not playing Lightweaver. I should have said that before. We're not playing Lightweaver. This is assuming we're playing the same as we have been playing, right? These are 2-point nodes, feel shit to go through, but again, we're hitting these all the time, so we want to make our palm better, so we take the palm talents, right? Throughput, like mandatory throughput, and then we're a crit mastery class. Our mastery is a lot of our healing, in general. If you're a holy priest main, if you're at Tisk main and you play holy, then your haste is gonna be higher, and maybe you can cut this point, I guess. But still, it's really good to have. So that's mandatory. Now we have 2 points left, and honestly, I think Gales of Song is mandatory as well. For 1 point, it is your best point out of anything left to take Gales of Song. It just makes your Divine Hymn 8% better for yourself, which is nice. But it also makes it it goes from a 4% it stacks 5 times, 20% amp to a 30% amp, I believe. I think that's what it is. No, it stacks 6 times. Him stacks 6 times. It goes to a 30% amp instead of like whatever it is. But just for it's just a really good 1 point. It's one of the best 1 points. And for the same reasons, you want to make your healing CD stronger, and this makes your other healers stronger, which will power through how the current raid tuning is, where it's very cooldown heavy and big bursts of damage, and you need to make sure that you can live the stuff with cooldowns, either defensives or healers or both, right? And now your last point, you have a few options. If you need mana, Enlightenment. If you want to do damage and you don't need mana, you can go Chastise. Prayerful Litany sucks. If you're doing Restitution, you can go Afterlife. At like this point might be better now too. We'll see with we'll see how this new tier, if this functions with the new tier, if it procs renews or what. But this choice might be more valuable, but usually you just go Enlightenment for the mana. It's just nice. You're gonna regen a lot more mana, have more available, whereas the other ones usually have you burn mana, right? But again, you have one choice here. You basically have one choice so far. In the first 20 talent points you spend for raid, you have one choice, which is between 4 talents. Prayerful Litany just sucks. Which is between 4 talents, and one is mana, one is making prayer healing better, which doesn't feel good because that button doesn't feel good to press in general. You just press it as a filler, right? The other one is so you can kill yourself to res somebody else, which doesn't really feel that good. And then Chastise for damage, so early bosses, whatever. We'll just go mana for the sake of it. Now here, you have 2 required points no matter what. You're going to be playing Salve. I guess there could be fights where if you're split, you could play Apotheosis, I guess. But you're going to be playing Salve. Let's be fucking real. You're playing Salve, probably. If you're not, you're playing one of the 2 because it's a fucking cooldown, so you're taking your cooldown. That's already minus 1 point in our capstone level. Miracle Worker is required. I don't care what people say, this is required. It is a major quality of life feature to be able to hold up to 2 charges of your holy words. Right? This means that you're less likely to overcap on a holy word. Right? You're not going to be wasting cooldown. Because it sucks. It sucks if you don't have this. It sucks to, have to cast a flash shield because you need or whatever, you need a Serenity for somebody. You have to cast a flash shield and you waste half the thing because there was only 2 seconds left on the CDR for Serenity. But now that doesn't happen. And you're able to hold charges if you need to and feel less bad about holding a charge for when you need it, right? Like when I was spot healing or playing Tindril, I would try and have a Serenity charge ready for people, specifically for P2, because the people that had to sit with the debuff were dying and they needed extra help. Now we have the main choices you have are which capstones are we going. We always go Divine Image no matter what in current tuning. It's just free passive healing and damage, right? That does a good amount of healing or damage, right? Depending on what you're doing. it benefits what you're already like doing, which is pressing your holy words, which is nice, and it costs 0 mana. So it just makes the mana you're spending more efficient, because you're already hitting those holy words, so that's more efficient, and you're already hitting those healing spells, so everything is just, it's basically more efficient healing. So you're always going to play this. Now your one choice is Answered Prayers or Voice of Harmony. Answered Prayers kind of feels fucking shit if you don't have Voice of Harmony, but as you'll notice, you want to play Answered Prayers because of Archon. You're going to want to play this no matter what, because of Archon, and even because of Oracle, you'll want to play this. I'll show you. There's another talent. Because of Oracle, you want to play this because you're pressing palms all the time, and because you're pressing Insight, for example, where you can reduce your palm cooldown to 0 with Insight plus Fate Bender. So you're getting more palms out. So you also want to be getting you can also be using Apoth windows more often and more reliably. Right? So like both kind of incentivize you wanting to hit palm and playing Answer Prayers, but you can't. You generally can't. They made a change, so now you get the palm CD and the Holy Fire Holy Nova CD for this, but not the Circle CD with 1 point. So this point is more valuable because you are going to be palming, and the 1 point is nice. But for the longest time, that wasn't the case. And I guess you could still do 2 points, 1 point, if depending on the lineup, because there is some cases where you might not need. It might have a bad timer if it's on a 50-second, where if it's on 100-second or 100 prayer mending healing, it's better. Right? Like I could see that, but generally you're putting 2 points. Right? And now you're gonna say your prayers. I think is like too good not to take. No matter what, to be honest. Again, we're hitting prayer mending all the time. When we hit salve, we put 2 stacks on everybody, so we put 40 out every time we hit salve, and we're already hitting it every 10 seconds in general. So just getting extra palms is very free extra healing, which is nice. Right? And now your choices, are we going for Lightwell, or are we going Divine Word? If you're going low, Lightwell is better. Lightwell is really good. If people are going under the 50% threshold, Lightwell is really good. And you get all these nice talents in Pontifex and Resonant Words, where Pontifex makes your next filler spell increase the healing of your Holy Word, stacking up to 5 times. And Resonant Words makes your next filler spell, or your next Holy Word, buff your filler spell. Right? So, but for the sake of argument, we'll say we're not going low in most of these fights. We're not going to be going low. We're going to go for Divine Word. Since we're not going low, Desperate Times is bad. Right? We're going Epiphany. Epiphany also plays into the Answered Prayers loop really well, and we're going Divine Word. Or I guess if you really need the res yourself, like I said, you can go Restitution if you want. You lose throughput. It sucks as a choice, but because you're losing so much throughput for it. But it is available if you struggle or if you need it for some reason. Right? Now we have 1 point left. And that probably goes here. Right? Or if you do the other way, you go these, and then you go this. And now you don't have the point for this, so you have to do this, because not having these two together sucks. Right? Having the instant cast when you proc your Apotheosis feels really good. But the main reason this is so shit, right? Again, you don't have many choices. Most of your choices, like I showed you, was to what capstone you're going. And then you're going whichever way is the best way to get to that capstone, depending on, right? Whichever one is mathematically better, right? But you can't even get most of these talents, which these 2-pointers actually affect your gameplay. Most of our talents so far don't affect your gameplay. They're just there. Palm bouncing extra, that's just there. Palm doing more healing for each bounce remaining, that's just there. Extra bounces on Palm, that's just there. Extra mastery healing, that's just there. Extra extra healing. The CD you notice, but extra healing. You have prayer circle, which you can play around, right? But most of the stuff is passive healing. The stuff that you'll actually feel, like when you proc Epiphany and you double palm, you feel that. You feel when you proc this. You don't feel Desperate Times, but that sucked. You feel the Holy Word CDR with Voice of Harmony. You feel the Apoth procs when your paramedic heals 50 times. You feel that, right? You feel the CDR with Light of the Naru, especially when you combo it with Answered Prayers or Voice of Harmony. Like, you feel all of that. You feel Pontifex and Resonant Words. You play around that, right? But you can't choose any of this because you're so restricted in this wall of 2 points. And that's why it's so bad. You don't have many choices. Your choices are far and removed from you. Your choice is, okay, am I playing Answered Prayers, which is very likely with Archon, so you have to click that, and you probably put 1 point here because Voice of Harmony combos really well with Archon, right? But you need to get to another capstone because this provides way too much healing. These other points don't provide that much healing. They're right, like I know Lightwell was like 3% last year for me, and Divine Word's a little less, and it's a little harder to track because it goes into the Sanctify value, because it buffs Sanctify and then puts the Blessed Ground, and sometimes people troll it, whatever. It's a little less than Lightwell for sure, in the probably in like the 2% range, right? But these are gameplay altering things that aren't even close to 3% healing. So you don't actually get the choice of like, okay, well, maybe I want this, right? Because this feels good. Having this combo feels really nice, so I want to go all of these, right? You can't have that choice because this is too much healing. Or you're losing Restitution, which you might need, right, if you're going down there. Or you go down and get Lightwell. Like, you don't have the option because of that. M Plus has the same issue, or a very similar issue, right? Because you have to go down there. You need this for your damage, right? You need Sanctify because it's a free Holy Word. You need your external, no matter what. I guess you could skip Cosmic Ripple, and that's a point there, but it is just free healing. Oh, actually, you can't. No, you can't even. I forgot. You can't even skip Cosmic Ripple. For a very important reason. You can't skip this because you need Trail of Light to heal. So there's that. Benedict, you still have the same problem things. Symbol of Hope, still really good, right? But you have to put 2 points into Trail of Light for not only for pathing, but like, again, because it doubles in value. All our 2 points double in value, which means you want to put 2 points into them, right? Which is a good thing if you don't have that many, but it's a bad thing when you have so many. So you're stuck doing that. You can't get to Circle because Circle of Healing is 2 points to get to, which sucks, right? Like, that feels bad. You can't get Circle if you want, so you play no Circle. You could, some people do, because they're psychos. But you have to put 2 points. You have to put a point in Everlasting Light, which feels bad. A 15% amp on your heal, which you don't press at all unless you play Lightweaver, which is not very popular right now. But you're incentivized to grab this because you want to go Crisis Management. You want to go this because you're putting out free renews. It's better. It was better with this past tier set, but whatever. But you want to go Crisis Management for extra Flash Heal value because that's your main source of healing is going to be Flash Heal outside of Serenity, right? Your main 2 sources of healing is going to be Flash Heal, Serenity, and Palm. Otherwise, you don't want to be casting, so you want to make your cast more efficient. Now we have 1 point left. Him is getting buffed. Let's humor ourselves and we'll say we take him, right? It's getting buffed. Same reasons before, you take Apoth, but not for a healing cooldown, for a fucking damage cooldown, right? You have it available as a healing cooldown, right? But it's also a damage cooldown, and it's used a lot in Mem Plus as a damage cooldown. Miracle Worker as well, right? For the same reasons of you get extra charges. It's really nice, especially on harder boss fights where you want to sit on like a Sanctify charge, or you want to You need to have your Serenity a Serenity bank. You need to have a Serenity ready and then a Serenity ready to go very quickly soon. Whether that's because you have two charges sitting or because you're gonna be able to dig for CDR to get another one quickly, right? You have same reason you have to go Divine Image. You're gonna play Voice of Harmony no matter what for damage because of the Holy Fire, Holy Nova stuff. It is 4 seconds now, so there is something to be said about going this because most of what you care about, you don't play Circle anyways, so it doesn't matter to only have 1 point. So this is probably like decent for the proc Apotheosis Divine Image. You want Divine Word for damage again. Another healing cooldown that you're using strictly for damage, which feels weird, a little counterproductive. And now you have 1 point, right? So you could get extra palms if you want. It's probably Pontifex because I think that's the most damage you can have. It feels good to have Light of the Naru, but you can't take this. I mean, I guess you could have 1 point. I'm sure there's math to do what the 1 point is. I don't know it off the top of my head. But this will help your Voice of Harmony loop out. But I think if you need healing, you go Pontifex. But you didn't really have much choice here, right? One of the choices you had is if you have higher mastery, you could go Prismatic Echoes over Crisis Management, and I do that sometimes because I can save a point on Everlasting Light. But you don't have much choice. And let's revise this. This is mandatory. Fade DR is mandatory. Well, Essence of Hour is probably one of the worst things we can have here. We need a Disease Dispel of some dungeons. Oh, what if we need Shackle, right? God forbid it's a mind control thing. Getting to there fucking sucks, right? Like, you don't have choice, and most of the choices that you're pulling out of, you're pulling, like, okay, let's say we need mind control, right? We need mind control. Let's say we don't need disease, right? We need mind control, though. So we get there. No disease, but no Fade CDR. So we can only hit Fade every 30 seconds instead of 20, right? We don't have that 50% Fade uptime, which hurts your mana and can potentially kill you depending on what the boss timer is like, right? We don't get free healing from Essence of Hour, which sucks, right? But we needed it to get to Mind Control or Dominate Mind. I think it's Dominate Mind. We needed to get there because of it's really broken on this one mob that's going to get nerfed in 2 weeks. So we need to make use of that, right? And God forbid you need both. Like, if you need both, well, bye Leap of Faith and buy Sheer Terror. Oh, fuck, I did the fucking... I hate when I do that. And buy Sheer Terror, right? Like... Oh, actually, you can't get rid of both because you lose PI. I forgot. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. Yeah, you lose PI if you do that. But, so you would play either or. Leap of Faith or Sheer Terror. Probably the Leap of Faith, but a lot of the times I'll play no Dominate Minds. I'll go through this and I can drop Leap of Faith, but it sucks dropping that, right? But as you can see, most of your choices are not actual choices. The only choice you have in the class tree is down here. Or in the spec tree is down here. The only choice in the class tree you have is for your utility, you have to sacrifice defensiveness or throughput, which is always a bad thing, right? Like, you can't even get to the other nodes over here if you really wanted to take manipulation, which is laughably shit, or cauterizing shadows, which is laughably shit, right? If you want to get Phantom Reach, there goes defensive or throughput. So I hope that shows you the problem. I know Disc has similar problems with their tree. I know Shadow also has similar problems. Like we saw with this, Shadow also has 8 spec points. They're pretty down bad for their spec, but also they have similar class issues where I think they have similar class issues where their points just feel bad, and they have the 2-point issue. Right? I don't know if I showed the class, but Priest has some of the highest total talent points you have. 55. I think that is the highest. We're 6 above the average. And we have 8. We're 3 above the average for 2-point nodes. And again, they're just restrictive. Because like I said, even if even if these said do nothing, you would still have to path. These could say do nothing, and you still path through them because they're their only way to get to these major defensive and healing nodes. Right, so that's why it's bad. Right, regardless of where we are tuned, regardless of if we're doing well, regardless if we're doing bad, right? Like I don't care if we're number one HPS or we're the most wanted M plus class. We're still gonna have these fundamental issues where we have this illusion choice, but not really, because of how restrictive our 2 points nodes are, especially, and because of how the throughput is and how our tree's laid out. Like it just sucks. So that's about it. I hope we get some changes. I hope Priest it just becomes fun, and everybody has a good time and everybody has fun. Why that pause? That's weird. Okay, sorry. I don't know when the music stopped. I don't care to fucking record again for 45 minutes. But hope you guys have a good rest of your day if you stayed for this fucking rant. See ya.